So in the meantime here, let's bring into the conversation someone we discuss California politics with all the time, political analyst there, Brian Sobel. He joins me. Brian, so good of you to be with us here. Had to get you on for this announcement today, decision by Harris. She does not want to run for governor. She's not going to do it. Now, I just read out that full statement, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe you heard this too in that statement. It seemed like she was closing the door altogether on any political future, any elected office in the future. Did you hear that in that statement?
I heard some of that, Andrew, and good evening. You know, politicians often make a statement like that and then decide later on that there's some office they want to run for. Famously, Richard Nixon, you don't have me to kick around anymore, leaving politics and then reemerging as a presidential candidate later on in his life. So Kamala Harris has options, but I think in the short term, an option was not to run in California for governor. One thing one would have to note is that coming off the vice presidential duties and running for president in California, she doesn't poll well necessarily, and so taking on a bruising race against 7 named Democrats for governor, I think may have left her in the dust. And I think she took the decision to just say, hey, I'm done with this for now, maybe forever.
Okay, that's so interesting, Brian. And you had alluded to that point offline to me in our conversation that you indicated she isn't really that popular in California, but all the speculation in the run-up to this announcement, it was characterized, it was reported as such that she would be the ultimate front runner, and that any of those other Democrats you mentioned would have a hard time against her. You're saying the opposite.
I'm saying that, you know, if in a primary where she had to take on 7 other names, including the lieutenant governor, secretary, you know, the education secretary in California, Katie Porter, who is well known in California, who was edged out by Adam Schiff, if you'll recall, in the Steve Garvey race. There's all kinds of names there. And I think she's probably done a lot of polling in California and doing a lot of head-to-heads and things like that. And I'm guessing that she took a look at that and said, hey, this is going to be a bruising race. Was she the odds-on favorite at this time? Yeah, absolutely. She's the vice president coming home to run for governor, but you have to look a little longer term. The election's in 2026.
So our colleague at Fox 11 Los Angeles, Alex Michelson, he has some reporting from a source familiar with this decision, kind of about what was in Harris's head at the time, or thinking. That source told Alex that she was tempted to run for governor, but ultimately she didn't want to do the job, that she's been in elective office for decades. She wants to take time to experience life as a private citizen and to see how she can be most helpful. She's writing a book. She's setting up a nonprofit. She will travel the country to campaign for Democrats. And then she genuinely has not decided whether to run for president in 2028, but knew her heart was not into running for governor there in 2026. So just kind of some getting into the head of Harris about what she's thinking via this source here, which leads me to my next question. Really, 2028, would she attempt to run for the White House yet again after her loss in 2024 here? Why are we even talking about that? Is that still on the table for Democrats?
I don't think so at this point, to be honest. I think people like to keep her name in the forefront of people's discussions. But she did not comport herself well in the previous race, although in fairness, she didn't have a lot of time to run after the decision made by Joe Biden to really lay out her bona fides for the American people. On the other hand, she did have enough time and enough money to get pretty far down that road, and she didn't do a very good job of it, just to be frank. And that's not just my opinion. It's the opinion of a lot of people who watched that campaign. And I'll give her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she is tired. Maybe this is not her time to want to run again. These races are bruising, and she understands that in 2028, rather 2026 for governor, but forgetting 2028 for a moment for president. But in 26, she is fresh in the minds of a lot of people in California who remember she didn't perform very well. And I think, again, the other people in the who have declared or otherwise said they have an interest in the race in California have household names in California, and I think she was looking at a very, very tough primary. Again, odds-on favorite because of who she is and being the vice president, but there's a tepid feeling about her in California as to whether she ought to move on to another elected office.
Let's talk about who might be the front runner for the Democrats come the primary there in California next year. Katie Porter, former member of Congress, Democrat, obviously. Is this the best day of her campaign so far, Brian?
Oh, she's quite thrilled to know that all of them are, by the way, to know that the former vice president is out of the race. It recalculates their races. And for Katie Porter, who's really worked very hard to make her name known in California, and again did not fare well in the Senate race against Adam Schiff, but Adam Schiff was brilliant, frankly, or his campaign was, in making sure that she got edged out in favor of the Republican Steve Garvey, the former Los Angeles Dodger, who did not do well, ran a very poor campaign, one of the worst campaigns I've ever seen for the United States Senate in California. And but he had the race really well designed. He knew that all he needed to do was to make sure that Garvey ended up second in the race, and he was in. And so Porter took the brunt of that. But she's back. She's got credentials, and I think she'll try to make a case for governor that will resonate with a lot of her supporters. But you also have the lieutenant governor, Kounalakis, who's got an interest. Her name is known in California, and Thurman and a lot of these other people that are in California that have names. And now you're going to see the race, Andrew, start getting interesting, because Harris kind of held out for a long time, saying, hey, I may not. And she finally today said, I am not. And now that opens up a whole new race for governor in California.
2026 will be here before we know it. We've been doing a lot of midterm previews here on Live Now, but I know you're a student of American history. We were going to have our friend and colleague there at 24 Site News, Tom LoBianco, on with us tonight, but he sent this over to me. He said this, as far as I was wondering whether or not any former vice presidents in the recent political memory made a play after they were vice president for a state's governorship here. Tom LoBianco tells me that Mike Pence pushed Dan Quayle to run for governor in 1996 and then to run for president. He ran for president anyway in 2000 and lasted all of 3 or 4 months in the primary there. Tom's saying he knows some people who wanted Pence to run for governor in 2024 in Indiana, but he says he doesn't think there was ever a serious push there. So I think it's just interesting to kind of tease out some of those tidbits of political trivia for some of those who might be watching here. Brian, final thoughts? Well,
now it gets very interesting, Andrew. I think with Harris out of the way, we will see a very vigorous campaign in California. If Republicans come out and vote, there is a Republican candidate, a sheriff, that is running for governor. And you could see another sort of Adam Schiff, Steve Garvey kind of scenario where whoever wins the primary for the Democrats ends up becoming governor. So today and going forward is a new day. And with Kamala Harris out of the race now, all bets are off in many respects, and now game on.
All right, Brian Sobel, we'll leave it at that. Thanks so much. Have a good rest of your night.
You too. Great seeing you, Andrew.